Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Haolonggood release, and most times I try to get the boxes in screen together. However, this time the box is quite large, so I can't really get both boxes in screen at the exact same time, but you can very clearly see there is another box back there to the right. We've got ourselves the Shantungasaurus, and obviously it's going to be a pretty big figure. As far as the box goes, you've got a nice shot of the figures in the front, of course the Haolonggood logo and Shantungasaurus in 1/35 scale over here. Then up on the top, a massive kind of checklist up here showing off so many other species that they've released, and what's crazy is that is not even close to all of them, which shows just the sheer amount of species and figures that Haolonggood has introduced to their line over the last few years. It has absolutely been incredible, and again we've got another incredible one right here with the Shantungasaurus. So let's pop these boxes open and check them out. So there they are, and wow, these things are so big. I don't know why I was not expecting them to be quite so massive, but they absolutely are. So straight out of the gate, they are going to have a massive presence on your shelf. That's one thing that is really cool about these. We're going to go ahead and take that guy out of here, and then we'll bring this one in for a closer look. And we'll begin here in the head sculpt, and you can see as far as the skin texture and everything in the head sculpt, it looks fantastic. They did a great job of sculpting this one out, giving it a very highly detailed appearance, especially here in the head. I'm just super impressed with how realistic the actual skin looks on the head sculpt of this one. We also have a nice brownish tone with a light brown dry brushing. You can see a blue eye with a black pupil and a very nice gloss coat added. There we go. My camera didn't want to focus on. You can see some larger scales moving up and over the eye area. As you move up here into the snout, you've got a really nice orangish tone that picks up. We can see the nostrils sculpted, as well as some very impressive fine detail on the beak that does have a different shade of brown. And again, the oranges also have a nice dry brushing over them, helping to bring out all of that skin detail. As you lead down, you can see how the skin is kind of stretching. There is a bit of an obvious seam moving here where the top of the head was connected, as well as the lower part. You can kind of see the seam moving down there as well. I personally don't think it's too distracting, but some people do take, issues with the seams of figures. You can see the inside of the mouth looks great. We've got a really nice tongue sculpt in there. The teeth as well are sculpted out, and you can see they are painted a little bit, but they look to have applied like a reddish wash, so it almost has kind of overtaken the paintwork of the teeth. You can see the same thing for the inside of the mouth on the upper side. It does have a really nice gloss coat in there though as well, and of course you can see everything is pretty much the same over here on the opposing side of the head. The Shantungasaurus does have its mouth open wide, as it's clearly letting out a vocalization of some kind, or just maybe coming in for a bite to eat. As we move back into the body, you can see a small line of ridges pick up over the spinal column. We can also see some darker patterning picks up, and it's very subtle, honestly, at first. Like, you almost can't even notice it. It's really quite blending with all of the other different shades of browns. But as we move down, we have all sorts of really impressive creases to the skin here in the neck. Nice dry brushing, again, bringing out all of the detail. We have the throat down here on the underside, which does also feature a slightly lighter shade and more of that dry brushing. As we lead down into the body, we can kind of make out the shoulder blade, but it's not shrink wrapped or anything like that, which is definitely a huge plus. Moving down into the front leg, we can see the skin kind of reacting to the movement of the leg off of the stomach right there. Lots of wrinkles and creases. Same deal here in the joint of the elbow. Then we have the elbow here on the back of the front leg. As you move down, you've got a really nice looking leg sculpt with that kind of hoof-like appearance here for the dinosaur, which does look really good. Again, a nice black tone for the nail area. And then we move up into the stomach, and the stomach does have some nice girth to it. If you look from up above, it's definitely quite beefy. As you lead up even more, you have more of that really nice patterning as you lead along. Again, really smooth and naturally applied. The dry brushing with the light brown really brings out all of the detail very impressively as you lead along. Tons of skin wrinkles and folds as you lead toward the lower part of the stomach, and of course the skin stretching off of the stomach with the leg kind of walking along, stretching the skin off of the stomach. As we we lead up, we can also see how the ridges are, definitely getting larger as you lead along. There are also osteoderms here poking up throughout the course of the body. We have the hip bone here protruding through the skin. Nice muscle definition as you lead down, but again, it's not overly defined in an unrealistic way. The skin texture continues, as my camera doesn't want to focus, to look very impressive, and that dry brushing does, again, such a great job of bringing all of that detail out as you lead down. You do have a lighter tone moving down along the back of the calf, which definitely helps to highlight the musculature in that area. We have the knee right there. As you lead down into the foot sculpt, you can see the toes look really nice. Obviously, we have a walking motion occurring. The toes are kind of picking up off of the ground at this point in time as the dinosaur's taking a step. You can see all of the impressive sculpt and detail when it comes to the skin reacting to that, as well as the toes. We can also see the claws, again, painted with a nice black. The detailing, honestly, of the feet is really impressive. As you lead back up, you've got some more skin wrinkles and everything back here behind the thigh, and as you lead out, you have more of that very nice looking patterning as you lead actually to a lighter tone there before the tip of the tail is overtaken with that entirely dark brown tone. And you can also see how the ridges kind of decrease as you lead out there toward the end of the tail. If you look at the underside, you can see more of the very nice looking dry brushing, a lighter tone, kind of like a light tan dry brushing down here. We can see the cloaca and everything as we lead along, and again, more really nice fine detail down here. Once you turn the figure around, you can, first of all, when you look at it from the front, see a slight turn in its leftward position, but as you lead back, you'll see pretty much the same type of detail as you lead down through the course of the neck. Once you get into the legs, that's the area where you'll see the most difference here on this side, because again, of the walking position, you've got both legs kind of held closer together on this side, really wrinkling the skin, which is shown off in the stomach region very nicely. But you can see the legs look great, especially this front leg and the way that they've defined the musculature. Again, because this foot is about to pick up off of the ground, but at this point in time, this leg is kind of coming down, so this really would be supporting a lot of the weight of the dinosaur, and you can really see that right there in that area. Again, you've got the foot sculpt looking really good, and then as you lead back, you can see how this foot is currently planting down on the ground. You can really see the toes kind of extending as the dinosaur is about to plant its foot, looking really nice. And again, some beautiful variation of color as you lead through. And then, of course, you lead out into the tail, with the tail just having a nice curve to it, but not anything like drastic or crazy. Then we have the other variant, because of course there are two. This one is a greenish tone rather than the brown. I feel like this one's a little bit more male-like, even if it's not super flashy, but I really quite like the colors of this one. Again, some very nice dark greens with some light brownish tones picking up. You also have a yellow eye with a black pupil, rather than the brighter blue we had on the other one. We've also got some nice reds in this area where we had orange on the other one. And again, some nice variations of greens with the beautiful dry brushing, bringing all of that detail out. Some more nice browns as you lead out into the beak. We can see the mouth looks pretty much the same as far as the paintwork goes. No real differences between the two as far as that. As you lead down, you do have the patterning, but again, super subtle at first. It's really pretty much blended together with all of the other variations of greens in the body. It starts to become a little more noticeable as you lead back here. It starts to kind of pop up. So it's not quite as obvious as we saw on the other one, which I personally think might be a female. As you lead to the underside, you can see more vibrant oranges down here on the underside of this one, and you'll continue to see a nice mixture of like an off-white and oranges as you move along the underbelly of this version. Again, you've got all of the nice greens. You have a little bit more of the patterns as you move down through the legs, and we do darken slightly as we move down into the foot sculpt. Again, a nice black for the nails of this one. We have a little bit of that orange leading up into the side of the stomach. As you lead further back, again, the patterning stays for the most part fairly kind of muted and not like super obvious, fairly blended, but it does become a little more obvious as you move down through the thigh. It's not until you reach the tail that you can really see and appreciate the patterns. But again, pretty much the same coloration as you lead through. Really nice light brown dry brushing as you move down into the foot sculpt, and again, the claws painted. But as you move up here into the tail, you can see that nice patterning, becoming a lot more obvious as you lead out, and then you've got a super vibrant orange that really overtakes the tail and adds a nice element of flashiness to that one. And that's exactly why I think this one here again is a male more so than the other one, because there's not a whole lot of flashiness on the other one. It definitely has a nice brown female-ish color scheme, and although this one isn't overly flashy, that orange tail would definitely be something that I could imagine could potentially attract a mate. As you move along the underside, the coloration pretty much stays that kind of light mixture of orange and an off-white, and then everything is going to look pretty much the same again over here as it did on the first side. But that is absolutely another incredible version of this dinosaur, and it has been so long since we had a good Shantungasaurus outside of like the Meng version, which is very small, and then of course we have the PNSO version, which is that large vinyl model. I'm surprised though to see that this one is as large as it is. Again, I'm not super familiar with how large this species is. I do know that they are quite large, but this is pretty impressive as far as the size goes. And to show you that, we're of course going to measure it. For a length from the snout to the tail, you're looking at about 15¼ inches, or around 38.5 centimeters. The highest point would probably be the back at around 5¾ inches, or around 15 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Golovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Shantungasaurus from Haolonggood, and you can very clearly see that it is really quite large, especially next to all of these other figures, easily outsizing all of them. Then for a comparison, we have the Meng Shantungasaurus, which you can clearly see is significantly smaller. Then when it comes to the PNSO large vinyl version of the Shantungasaurus, you can honestly see they are not too far off in size. Obviously the PNSO version is a little bit bigger, but the Haolonggood version is pretty much right behind it. Then for just a few random Haolonggood comparisons, here we have the Oranosaurus, which is significantly smaller. Same deal for the Saurolophus. Once you bring that one in, you can very much so see it's a lot smaller. We've also got the very cool Baryonyx, which again is a lot smaller. The fan favorite Triceratops, which is quite large from Haolonggood, as well smaller. The recently released Torosaurus, which again, quite a bit smaller. We've also got the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which we can see again is quite a bit smaller than the Shantungasaurus. And then one final comparison with the PNSO Edmontosaurus, which is quite large in its own right, clearly is a lot smaller than our Shantungasaurus. So this brand new Haolonggood pair of Shantungasaurus is such an epic release. I think both of these figures are by far two of their coolest to date, because it is a species that is severely underappreciated and underlooked. You don't see too many models for this one, so it is nice to have such a really good high quality version of this species. But they've done such a great job on the sculpts. They are extremely highly detailed, super impressive. When it comes to fine detail, I think, very few companies can compete with Haolonggood when it comes to that aspect. But their paintwork as well is again another thing that they excel at, and they have great paint jobs on both. I love that they didn't go overly flashy with either. I think they're nice naturalistic colorations, very much so the type of colors I could see for a dinosaur like this, especially one that is this large. And as a whole, again, I would say these two are absolutely must-haves for any Haolonggood collection. So if you are interested, I will include links in the description to where you can purchase both from Lana Time Shop, because that is exactly where I got mine. So make sure you check those links, definitely pick them up, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.